Hello there students, today we are going to be doing an introduction to Git as well as GitHub, but we're not going to be learning all about it, but just the basics here. But before we get on, we need to cover what is Git. So Git is like a version control system for pushing code to GitHub. It's really great for when you're working in teams or when you're building an app together. GitHub helps you push code from your computer onto GitHub so that someone else can view it or see it on your computer. It's really great for when you're working in teams again, and we're going to be teaching you how you can pull it from GitHub onto your computer as well as push it from your computer to GitHub. So of course, here I am at the Git website. You can go there through the link up there and also the link in the description. Now it says here that Git is a free and open source distributed version control system which is designed to handle everything from small to very large projects with speed and efficiency. It's easy to learn and has a tiny footprint with lightning fast performance. It outclasses SCM tools like Supervision, CVS Performance, and ClearCase with features like cheap local branching, convenient staging areas, and multiple workflows. There's a documentation here if you want to see it and learn more about it, and to the latest source release, which is 2.50.1, and a download for Windows. Here's some products providing Git hosting. There's GitLab as well as GitHub, which we'll be using, and many others. So now we are going to be talking about GitHub. So in the basic explanation here, GitHub is a hosting engine used for stuff like hosting code from your computer onto the internet. It's really useful for when your computer has an issue or you're in a situation. Git commands are what GitHub uses to store your code. You use these Git commands through Git from VS Code, then they are pushed into GitHub. Examples of these are git push for pushing code from your computer onto GitHub, git commit for saving the code locally on your computer, and git add for adding files to your workspace. Again, GitHub is really great for working in teams, and of course I've had my own problems with it, but they have resolved all of them. So here I am at the GitHub website. You can visit it through the link in the description, but of course I have my own profile here. Of course, as you can see, I have created a lot of GitHub repo. GitHub repo or GitHub repositories are these codes that you have created and hosted here. As you can see, I have a lot of them, and I'm going to show you how you can create one for yourself. So now we're going to be creating our own new GitHub repository by clicking on this button over here. Here we are given the option to create a new repository over here. So of course we have a gitignore adding, I'll get to that later, a readme file adding, and a lot of stuff. Of course it's public by default, but you can change it to private if you don't want anyone else to see it. We are going to be naming this repo testing, 1. After that, if we click create repository over here, now we have these options. One is if we do a quick setup, if you've kind of done this thing before, or create a new repository on the command line, or push to an existing repository from the command line. This option is what we're going to be using, but of course if you know how to use any of these, you can try. So now we are going to be moving on to the ways of getting a repository. Now as you can see here, there are two ways of getting a repository. The first one is initialization and the second one by cloning. So initialization works like creating a repository on your computer before linking it to GitHub. When you initialize the repository on your computer, it's stored locally and not on GitHub. So of course you still need to link it to GitHub, and I will show you how to do that in this video. But as we move on to cloning, cloning is making a copy or getting a copy of a repository from GitHub. Now when it comes to initialization, when you create a repository, it is stored locally on your computer. But you can't clone that repository if you haven't pushed it to GitHub. Now you can only clone repositories if they are on GitHub. So here I am in VS Code. Here's where we're going to be doing most of the testing concerning our Git repository as well as GitHub. As you can see here, I have the Git logo over here. And this is what you get from downloading the Git file and linking it to VS Code. So of course now I'm going to cover Git bash, which also comes from downloading the Git file. You can also get it from downloading it from the Git website, which I showed you earlier. Of course we have an open repository button. If I click this, there's just a repository to open over here. So we haven't actually created a repository yet and are yet to make it. So now I'm going to be telling you about Git bash. So Git bash is GitHub's own version control terminal for running Git commands. It is gotten from downloading the Git file that you get from the Git's website. Git bash is useful for running commands around your repository, but of course lacks one thing, which is how we have to switch in between the two apps. So that's why we're going to be using VS Code's version of the Git's terminal, which is right here, but now it's not in Git, it's in PowerShell or Windows PowerShell, and I'll be teaching you how to switch it from this to Git. So in order to change our terminal from PowerShell to Git, I'm going to show you how we're going to do this. First, we'll have to click this button down here, close to the Accounts button, and then click Command Palette or type C0 plus Shift plus P. After that, you'd want to type terminal. And after that, select profile or default profile, sorry. As you can see up here, this is the closest thing to what we're typing. If we select this, we have all the options here, and we're going to choose Git bash. After choosing this, it does still look the same, so we're going to delete the terminal or kill the terminal. Open up a new one. And see that it is now in Git. So now we are going to be creating our repository. So firstly here, we are going to be creating a new file known as testing.html. This file is going to be what shows that our repository is working from the within. Now if I create a new file that we're going to be using here, I'm going to enter a new Git command known as git init or git init. This initializes a repository within our workspace. As soon as I click enter, we have now initialized a repository within our workspace. Now as you can see here, for some reason our testing.html file is green. If you want to check why things like this happen, you can just type git status, and as you can see here, it says our testing.html file is untracked. Untracked means it's not added to our Git repository. I'm going to type git add dot. This dot means all here. As soon as I enter this, our testing.html is now added. Now I'm going to type git status again so we can check it. And it says changes to be committed. Use git rm cache file to instate. And of course we have a new file in the repository known as testing.html. We are going to commit this locally by typing git commit m. The m here means message. The message is supposed to appear inside GitHub when you're checking the repository to know how many times or which time you committed it. So I'm going to type first commit. Now, notice that even though we haven't added it to GitHub yet, or to our Git repository yet, it still does commits. This means that when we link it to it, our commits are going to show up as first commits and going. It's good to know that whenever you're committing a file to your workspace, you should start from somewhere like first commits. The second one should be second commits and going on. So now before we add our file to GitHub, I would like to show you something, which is modifying. Now when I mean modifying here, I mean this. If I type h1 right now and save it, as you can see now, our testing.html is now yellow for some reason and has an M symbol close to it. This M symbol means modified, and by modified, I mean that we've made a change in our workspace that was not known by the Git repository. So if we open up our terminal and type git status, it's going to tell us that our HTML file is modified and it's ready to be added or restore it. So if you want to restore it, you can type git restore dot, and this restores everything, or you can just specify it by typing git restore dot or git restore testing.html. This also works too and also restores the same file, but of course you can decide to add it. So if I type h1 again and save it once more and it's now modified, we are going to add it once more by typing git add testing.html. After doing this, if we type git status, it's green, meaning that it's added but still modified. So now we need to commit it because we've now made a change in it and we need to commit that change. So if I type git commit with another message symbol, second commit, it seems everything's fine here. And if I type git status, it says on branch main, nothing to commit, working tree clean. This means that everything that we've done here is now saved in the Git repo, and now it's left to work on the rest of it. So now we are going to be adding our repository to the main repository we created earlier on GitHub. So here I am now back at GitHub. So now we are going to be linking the two repositories together to make them one. So first, here in the page, you want to scroll all the way down here, copy the first line of the third way to get a repository, go back to VS Code, paste it in the terminal and enter. Now we're on the way to link the repositories. So now they're linked, but now we need to push them with the last command. This might take a while though, so you'll have to wait a bit. But continuing, as you can see, the first command, git remote add origin, and we have a link here, which is the link for our repository, adds the existing link to our local repository. And this means that GitHub is now in control of our repository. And now that the command is finished, if I come back here and reload the page, as you can see, our testing.html file is here, and as you can see also, the second commit that we did earlier is also here. We did this 54 minutes ago, as it said, and if we click on it, we can see the H1, which is the same thing as it is right here. So that's how you link a repository to GitHub from VS Code to your computer. But now it's time to show you how you drag it from GitHub to your computer. So here I am in a new folder known as testing2. Here's where we are going to clone testing1 by going through GitHub. So if I go all the way back here, as you can see, it looks the same, and there's a green button over here that says code. If I click it, a small dialog shows up that says clone over here. There's an HTTPS version and an SSH version, but we're going to copy the HTTPS version because that's what we're using. So inside of VS Code, you want to type git clone, leave a bit of a space, then copy paste the URL. As you can see, we're done, and now we have testing1 over here. It still looks the same and of course has the same folder. So that's how you clone repositories, and of course we've also covered how you initialize repositories. So now before we end the video, I would like to show you a file known as gitignore. Gitignore is a file used for ignoring other files within the workspace inside of the repository. It doesn't really do anything to the files, but just ignores them so that Git doesn't see them when we create it. Now, as you can see here, for some reason the file's modified, meaning I've already opened it before. Now, if I type something like testing.html, now whenever you're doing this, make sure the spelling is really correct. And if I save it and go back here to git status, of course the gitignore is still modified though, and we'll have to take care of that first. So first let's add all, but you can decide to specify it by only adding the gitignore and git commit once more. Now we write this as our third commit. And we see the repository is back to normal. If we do another git status, as you can see, it says your branch is ahead of origin main by 2 commits. Use git push to publish your local commits. Nothing to commit working tree clean. Now because of the gitignore here, we have found a bit of an issue. So we need to push it back into the workspace on GitHub. And as you can see now, it is pushed into the workspace by typing another git status. It says your branch is up to date with origin main, nothing to commit working tree clean. So that's usually everything that you might need to know about the Git ignore. So now we are coming to the end of the video. Hope you enjoyed this. I mean, in the comments, I will answer all questions. Now, please feel free to join our Discord server or subscribe if you liked the video, and you can ask any question you want in the comments. Thank you for watching.